After my wife died, I unexpectedly found myself able to see her soul drifting above in the air. While sorting through her belongings, I heard her say, "Fortunately, he didn't find the property certificate for the house I gave to Gabriel." My hand tightened around her belongings. I made no sound. I turned around and immediately contacted a lawyer, and using the proof of marital joint property, I reclaimed the house she had secretly gifted away. On the day the house was taken back, her soul was anxiously circling in the living room, but the next second I heard her let out a breath of relief. Good thing I left the child Gabriel and I had to be raised by him. With his nature, he'll definitely treat the kid well. That counts as a guarantee for the two of them as father and daughter. I still remained silent. I simply contacted the Welfare Institute that same day and sent that adopted child away. They had no idea how hard-earned my money was. I would never let those bastards take even the slightest advantage of me. Chapter 1. I had just rushed to the outside of the emergency room when a sudden force yanked me backward. It was Melissa's aunt. Her eyes were bloodshot as she screamed at me, "William, you damn jinx! If it weren't for you always demanding some stupid sense of ceremony for every holiday, would Melissa have gotten into an accident while going out to pick an anniversary gift for you?" My mother-in-law also lunged toward me, grabbing my arm and twisting it hard. Our Melissa was such a good girl. She worked tirelessly for this family day and night, and yet you were never satisfied. You just had to celebrate that stupid anniversary, and now her life is gone because of it. The relatives from my mother-in-law's side instantly swarmed around me, each taking turns accusing me, pushing all the blame onto me. I opened my mouth wanting to explain that I had only casually mentioned that our anniversary was coming soon. I never intended to force Melissa to buy anything, but now the words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't say a single thing. Luciana's reaction suffocated me the most. She grabbed my sleeve and shook it violently. "Daddy is bad. Mommy died because you wanted to celebrate a holiday. I don't have mommy anymore." A child's words are always the bluntest and the most painful. Guilt grew wildly inside me like tangled vines, choking me until I could barely breathe. Yes, if I hadn't mentioned the anniversary, Melissa wouldn't have gone out at that time, and she wouldn't have gotten into the accident. Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face, blurring my vision. At that moment, through the haze, I faintly saw Melissa's soul drifting above the emergency room. I thought it was an illusion brought on by grief, but the moment her voice echoed, I realized it was all real. Good thing William doesn't know I had the accident while on my way to buy a cake for Gabriel. Gabriel scares easily. If he knew I died because of him, imagine how guilty he would feel. Her voice was airy and weightless, yet it struck me like a lightning bolt, freezing my blood instantly. My tears stopped abruptly. My gaze locked tightly onto Melissa's soul. Of course, I knew who she meant by Gabriel. He was Melissa's junior schoolmate. He graduated just 2 years ago and joined their company. Melissa often mentioned him in front of me, saying he came from a poor family but worked very hard. She said it was natural for her to look after him a little out of loyalty to their shared alma mater, and she told me repeatedly not to overthink. And indeed, she kept her word. She never did anything inappropriate with Gabriel, but I never expected that she would go this far for another man behind my back. If Gabriel hadn't said he was craving that mango mousse from West City, I wouldn't have hurried to take a shortcut and run the red light. Melissa's soul floated back and forth in the air, her voice full of regret, yet she never mentioned me, not even once. Good thing Mom and Dad helped me hide it, saying I was out to buy William an anniversary gift. Otherwise, knowing his personality, he would definitely go make trouble for Gabriel. I left so suddenly. I didn't leave anything behind for Gabriel. Luckily, I gave him an apartment when he first joined the company. After I'm gone, at least he won't be left homeless in this big city. Hearing this, I fell silent for a moment. Then I let out a small laugh. I really wanted to see how she planned to keep protecting her little lover now that she was dead. Chapter 2. The day after the funeral, I contacted the lawyer directly and gave him both the address of the house Melissa mentioned and all of Gabriel's personal information. In addition, I prepared a statement saying that Gabriel took advantage of Melissa's compassion, lied about being from a struggling family and having no place to live, and deceived her into giving him this property. Melissa was kind-hearted by nature. She made the decision without consulting me. Now that she's gone as her legal spouse, I have the right to reclaim our marital joint property. The lawyer looked surprised but still followed my instructions and prepared all the documents. 3 days later, I appeared at Gabriel's door with the lawyer and a group of staff. When the door opened, I was stunned for a moment. Gabriel was wearing an off-white set of loungewear, the exact same style and details as the gift Melissa brought back for me from a business trip. Even the bracelet on his wrist was identical to mine. So she had already split her affection long ago. Half for me, half for her little junior schoolmate. When Gabriel saw me, a flash of panic crossed his face. "William, why are you here?" I didn't respond. I let the lawyer hand over the paperwork. "Gabriel, according to the law, this property belongs to the marital joint assets of Ms. Melissa and Mr. William. Ms. Melissa's unilateral transfer of ownership is invalid. Mr. William is now reclaiming the property, and we ask you to cooperate and vacate the premises." Gabriel's face instantly turned pale. He turned toward me. "William, this was a gift from Melissa. You can't make me move out." Hearing him, I let out a cold laugh. "Gabriel, let me ask you, what exactly is your relationship with my wife, Melissa?" Gabriel's whole body stiffened. His eyes avoided mine, unable to meet my gaze. "William, Melissa is just my senior. There's nothing else between us." "Your senior? What kind of senior gives you a $3 million apartment in the center of the city?" Gabriel glanced at the lawyer behind me, his lips trembling. After a long moment, he finally squeezed out a sentence. Melissa said it was hard for me just after graduating, so she wanted me to have a place to stay." Before he could finish, I saw Melissa's soul floating anxiously in midair, spinning in circles, muttering non-stop. "Gabriel, don't say anything stupid. Just say it was only temporary lodging, that it was out of loyalty between schoolmates." She drifted to Gabriel's side, trying to pat his shoulder to remind him, but her hand passed straight through him. All she could do was stomp her feet in frustration. "Say it. Don't let him catch anything he can use against you. That house was meant to be your safety net. You can't lose it." I didn't look at her. My gaze stayed locked firmly on Gabriel. "My wife said you were poor and homeless, but I found out your parents just built a standalone villa in your hometown." Gabriel, taking advantage of someone's kindness isn't exactly graceful. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to the surrounding neighbors. Gabriel's face flushed red, then white. He tried to speak, but I didn't give him the chance. "As for your deception, pretending to be from a poor background to obtain Melissa's property, we've already prepared the relevant evidence. If you cooperate and move out, we won't pursue your responsibility. But if you refuse, we will proceed legally. By then, you'll have to return the house and bear the corresponding legal consequences." Melissa's soul was spinning wildly in panic, desperately trying to rush over and protect Gabriel, but she passed through our bodies over and over again. She could only scream at me. "William, stop. You can't do this to Gabriel." Halfway through shouting, she suddenly froze. Her soul stiffened in midair. Then a faint, lucky smile appeared on her face. "I almost forgot, Lucy is still with you. She's the child Gabriel and I had. In the future, everything William owns will belong to Lucy." Chapter 3. I stood frozen in place as if I had grown roots, unable to react for a long time. The child Melissa and I adopted from the orphanage, the child I cherished for 5 years as if she were my own, turned out to be Melissa and Gabriel's biological daughter. Countless scenes flooded uncontrollably into my mind. When I tutored Luciana on her homework, she cried over a simple arithmetic problem. I explained it 5 times patiently, but she tore up her exercise book, shouting, "I don't understand anything. Daddy explains." When Melissa came home, she recited the formula once, and Luciana understood immediately. She pounced into Melissa's arms, cooing, then turned to make a face at me. "Mommy is 100 times smarter than you." When I told Luciana bedtime stories, she always woke up frightened, complaining, "Daddy, your voice is awful." But whenever Melissa was the one telling a story, even topics Luciana didn't usually like, she could sleep peacefully through the night. I let out a bitter laugh. So all my efforts to please her, all my patience were nothing but my own wishful thinking. The child I loved for 5 years had her own real father. No wonder everything I did felt wrong in her eyes. No wonder nothing I did ever pleased her. Gabriel really is smart. leaving Lucy under William's nose. Melissa drifted in midair, her tone full of pride. William is soft-hearted. After raising Lucy for 5 years, he's already attached. He definitely won't get married again. When he gets old, won't his house, his cars, and all his savings end up belonging to Lucy? When Lucy brings Gabriel over someday and they reunite as father and daughter, I'll finally be able to rest peacefully underground. She floated back and forth, her tone becoming lighter and even cheerful. So what if he temporarily took the house back? All that stuff will still belong to Lucy sooner or later. William is just an outsider. At most, he can only enjoy a few extra years of benefit. Gabriel's face flushed with anger. The pitiful expression he had earlier vanished completely, replaced by simmering rage. William, do you really have to be this ruthless? Melissa hasn't even been gone for long, and you're already eager to kick me out. It's just a house. Do you have to be so stingy about it? Aren't you afraid Lucy will blame you? Last time I took her to buy candy, she said she liked me better. Can you, as her dad, say you've ever gotten that kind of treatment? Hearing him, I laughed instead of getting angry. He had reminded me. Luciana's situation was the most important thing to handle right now. I lifted my gaze, swept past his reddened face, and didn't bother responding to his provocation. I simply turned to the lawyer. Proceed according to protocol. If the house isn't vacated in 3 days, file the lawsuit. Gabriel froze for a moment, the momentum he had built up collapsing halfway. Still, he forced himself to shout, "You wouldn't dare! If Lucy asks about me, what will you tell her?" I completely ignored him and walked downstairs, dialing the orphanage. "Hello, is this Sunshine Orphanage? I'm Luciana's adoptive father, William. There has been a new development. In the past 2 days, I located Luciana's biological father. According to regulations, I can no longer continue raising her. I'll bring her over this afternoon to complete the procedures." Chapter 4. I held the adoption certificate from the orphanage in my hand. Just as I bent down to take Luciana's hand and sign the papers, my mother-in-law grabbed my arm with a forceful grip. "You're sending away a child you've raised for 5 years just like that? William, what are you really thinking? Melissa has barely been gone. And you're already trying to find yourself a new life, aren't you?" My father-in-law glared at me and barked, "Nonsense. Lucy may not be your biological child, but she is a child of the Mu family. Try laying a finger on her." Luciana locked eyes with her grandfather for a second, then immediately clung to the arm of the sofa and wailed, "I'm not leaving. This is my home. Why are you making me go? Bad Daddy, I hate you. I want Grandpa. I want Grandma." She kicked her legs and hid behind my mother-in-law, crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. If this had been before, seeing Luciana like this would have made me panic. I would have held her over and over, explaining gently, crouching down to coax her. "Daddy is wrong, it's all Daddy's fault." But now, looking at this child, all I felt was noise, nothing but noise and irritation. I rubbed my temples. For the first time, I didn't look at her swollen, tear-streaked face. I ignored my in-laws completely and simply swept my gaze across the room full of people. These procedures must be completed today. My mother-in-law released my arm and lunged forward like a hen protecting her chick, wrapping Luciana tightly in her arms. She was clearly ready to fight me to the end. I'd like to see who dares to touch my precious granddaughter today. My father-in-law frowned. Maybe he sensed I was dead serious for once because he finally hardened his tone and scolded Luciana. "Lucy, did you do something to make your dad upset? Get down on your knees right now and beg your dad not to send you away." Luciana froze for a second, then bit her lip and dropped to her knees with a thud. "Daddy, I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you angry. I'll never rip my homework again, and I'll never say your voice sounds awful. Please don't send me away. Okay?" Thinking back on everything I had done for Luciana over the years, her kneeling, hell, even if she knocked her forehead on the ground 3 times, I could still afford it. I didn't bend down to help her up. Instead, I took a step back, avoiding her reaching hand, and let my eyes fall on my in-laws' faces. This child must be sent away today. Melissa's soul had run out of patience long ago. She charged at me like someone deranged, her transparent fists pounding into my body again and again. "William, Lucy is already kneeling to you. What more do you want? I'm telling you, Lucy is a child of the Mu family. She'll stay with us for the rest of her life." Seeing that I didn't budge, she rushed to Luciana's side. Her voice suddenly cracked into sobs as she reached out to touch Luciana's head, only for her hand to pass straight through the air. Lucy, don't be afraid. Mommy is right here. Mommy won't let anyone take you away. I cut off my mother-in-law's crying and ignored Melissa's hysterical howls in my ear. Finally, I said the words that had been weighing in my chest the entire day. Luciana, stand up. You don't have to cry. I found your biological father. From now on, you should go back and live the good life you're meant to have. Chapter 5. The air froze instantly. Melissa's screaming stopped abruptly, her soul stiffening in midair. My mother-in-law suddenly released her grip on Luciana's hand. She staggered before regaining her balance, and it took her a long moment before her voice returned. How is that possible? When you adopted Lucy, the orphanage clearly said she was an orphan. No father, no mother. How could you suddenly find her biological father? William, were you scammed? My father-in-law tried to hold himself together as he hurried to agree. Yes, it must be a scammer trying to extort money. We've seen plenty of this. William, don't fall for it. Lucy has been raised in our home for so many years. She's no different from being our own blood. Are you really going to give up such an obedient and lovable granddaughter because of a few lies? Watching them echo each other's words, I suddenly laughed. It shouldn't be a scam. After all, you know the father. His name is Gabriel, Melissa's junior schoolmate. My mother-in-law was the first to deny it loudly. Impossible. Gabriel just graduated. He's not even married yet. How could he possibly have such a big daughter? William, stop slandering him. Gabriel still needs to marry someday. My father-in-law slammed the table and shouted, Don't go too far. Melissa just passed away, and you're already making up garbage about her junior. What kind of twisted mind do you have? I hooked the corner of my lips, letting out a soft laugh. You'll know soon enough whether I'm making things up. As soon as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang. I glanced at my panicked in-laws and went to open the door. It was my lawyer, Attorney Sia. I took the documents from her and walked straight back to the living room. I pulled out the paternity test from the folder and slapped it onto the coffee table. See for yourselves. Based on the available information and DNA analysis, the results support Gabriel as Luciana's biological father. The moment I said that, color drained from both my in-laws' faces. I looked at their now ghostly pale expressions, then swept my gaze to Melissa's soul frozen midair, and a mocking smile pulled at my lips. As for who the child's mother is, I didn't investigate and it doesn't matter. What matters is, she's not an orphan. And she is not a child I should be raising. Before they could react, I grabbed Luciana by the wrist and dragged her toward the door. Luciana screamed and struggled, pounding her fists on my arm as she cried, William, you bad man. Let go of me. I want Grandpa. I want Grandma. The lawyer had already arranged everything downstairs. With his help, the orphanage transfer procedures went unusually smoothly. 3 days later, holding the key, I opened the door to the apartment Melissa had secretly bought for Gabriel. Packed cardboard boxes were scattered across the living room. Gabriel was bending down, organizing things. When he saw me walk in, his hands froze. William, I'm already moving out. Don't push me any further. I ignored his words. I stepped aside and pushed Luciana, who had followed behind me, toward him. My voice was icy. Here. Your daughter. Gabriel's expression was truly something to behold. His pupils shrank, his whole body went rigid. Shock washed over his face, his mouth opening so wide an egg could fit inside. He even forgot to pick up the clothes that had fallen to the floor. It took several seconds before he suddenly stood up. Then, as if giving up entirely, his lips twisted into a defiant smirk. So you already know. Fine, I won't pretend anymore. Melissa loved me from the start. If you hadn't been occupying her husband's position, I would have brought Lucy home in broad daylight long ago. Blame yourself for being stupid, playing the perfect fool for 5 years without even realizing it. No sooner had he finished speaking than I heard the hurried footsteps of my in-laws at the door. The moment my mother-in-law entered, she rushed straight toward me. Yes. Why should Gabriel leave? If anyone should go, it's you. At least Gabriel and Melissa left us such a cute granddaughter and kept the Mu family bloodline going. And you? What can you do? I looked at their righteous, self-important expressions and let out a short laugh. So what you mean is Melissa cheated during our marriage, got involved with Gabriel and gave birth to this illegitimate child, Luciana? Watch your mouth. My mother-in-law's shrill voice cracked from anger, yet she still didn't dare meet my eyes. You were the one who insisted on staying child-free. We were forced to find another way to have a descendant. Luciana hid behind my mother-in-law, and emboldened by the adults shouting, she mimicked them and screamed at me. William, you're the bad guy. Why are you kicking my dad out? You're the one who should get lost. You useless loser who can't even have kids. I let them curse for a long while. Only when my mother-in-law's voice went hoarse did I slowly straighten up, a cold mocking smile tugging at my lips. Done. Since you're all so reluctant to part with Gabriel and your precious Moo family child, then take them and get out of my house. After all, the house you're living in, the car you're driving, every bit of it is my premarital property. My mother-in-law completely snapped. She raised her hand to hit me, but I caught her wrist mid-air. William, you heartless man. You're actually throwing us out? You think having a bit of dirty money makes you some big shot? You'll regret this sooner or later. From mid-air, Melissa's soul also screamed at me. Fine. We'll leave. Who cares about living in your stupid house? What do you have besides money? We are a loving family, and someone like you will never have that warmth in your whole miserable life. She floated protectively toward my mother-in-law and Luciana, her tone dripping with scorn. He's just a greedy miser. Let's go. Stay far away from him. I released my mother-in-law's wrist and stepped back. I don't like dragging things out. You have one day to move. Tomorrow at this time, I'll be back to reclaim the place. If I see anyone who shouldn't be here, don't blame me for bringing property management and my lawyer to clear you out. After saying that, I turned and left. The next day, when I returned on time, the living room was already empty. They had moved out with surprising efficiency. I originally thought they were simply ashamed after their lies were exposed. But just as I turned around to lock the door, Melissa's voice drifted from mid-air. She's just pretending. Yesterday, you could clearly see it in his eyes. William can't bear to part with Lucy. We'll follow his wishes for now. Give it a few days. Once he starts missing the child so badly, he'll beg us to come back. And then we'll name our conditions, make him transfer the house and car to Lucy. My steps paused. I lifted my eyes toward Melissa's floating soul and said one word. Stupid. Chapter 7. That same day, I contacted a cleaning company and specifically emphasized that I wanted a deep cleaning. The cleaning ladies worked quickly. They took down the bright red curtains my mother-in-law had insisted on hanging years ago, and wiped away the graffiti Luciana had drawn on the walls. By the time they left, the entire place looked completely different. There wasn't a single trace left showing the Moo family had ever lived here. I sat on the sofa, scrolling on my phone, and unintentionally came across a new post from my in-laws' social media. In the photo, Gabriel was holding Luciana at the dining table. My father-in-law and mother-in-law sat on either side with 3 simple dishes and a soup on the table. The caption said, "A family staying together is a blessing. Even plain meals taste good." Gabriel commented below, "With Grandpa, Grandma, and Daddy here, Lucy will always be the happiest child." My mother-in-law replied, "We are the real family. Some people guard mountains of gold yet remain lonely." I closed my phone with a short laugh. Even through the screen, I could practically smell their sourness. Melissa floated in front of me, letting out a smug cold snort. "William, don't think I can't tell you're dying of envy, aren't you? After all, Lucy was never that obedient when you held her." I rolled my eyes and didn't bother responding. But just 2 days later, my mother-in-law posted another update, this time with a photo of Luciana's forehead covered with a fever patch, the caption dripping with pity. "Lucy has been having constant fevers lately. She's not adjusting well to the new environment, can't eat properly, and can't sleep well. It breaks my heart. If only she had a stable home." Gabriel commented, "It's all my fault. I didn't give Lucy a good living environment, and now Grandpa and Grandma have to worry. I didn't have to guess. These words were clearly meant for me, baiting me to soften up. Go get my baby daughter back right now." Melissa was so anxious her speech started slurring. She circled me again and again. "William, look, Lucy is suffering. Can your conscience really handle this? Go. Hurry and bring them all back. She lunged to grab my phone, but her hands passed through it again and again. I stared at Luciana's weak face in the photo, let out a sigh and eventually picked up my phone. Seeing that, Melissa floated to the side with a triumphant smile curling on her lips. I knew you couldn't let Lucy go. All that talk about not wanting kids, clearly it's just because you have a problem. As if any man wouldn't love children. She was certain I was going to cave. Unfortunately for her, she was destined to be disappointed. In the next second, I dialed the number for the HR department at Gabriel's company. Hello. I'd like to report Gabriel from the marketing department. He was involved in an inappropriate relationship with my wife, Melissa, severely damaging your company's reputation. The moment the words left my mouth, Melissa's smug expression froze. William, are you insane? Weren't you going to pick Lucy up? Why would you do this? You know Gabriel is supporting the family alone, yet you still want to ruin his career. You'll die a terrible death. Gabriel was in a critical stage for his promotion. His company had zero tolerance for misconduct. By that afternoon, I received word that Gabriel had been fired on the spot. Since being kicked out by me, he had been living in the company dormitory. But now that he was fired, he could only drag his whole family to find a rental place. Just like that, he truly had no stable environment, ironically fulfilling exactly what he had written in his oh-so-pitiful social media post. Chapter 8. I was in a great mood and deliberately brought 2 bottles of good liquor to the cemetery. Melissa's soul floated behind me the whole way, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Feeling regret now? Why didn't you think of all this earlier? When she saw me heading deeper into the cemetery, she assumed I was there to visit her. Her voice grew increasingly arrogant. If you want my forgiveness, it's not impossible. Go bring my parents, Gabriel, and our daughter back. Serve them properly, then transfer all your assets to Lucy, and I'll pretend all your stupid mistakes never happened. I didn't pause. I stopped instead in front of the 2 graves beside hers. I set the bottles down gently and curved my lips into a smile. My first ex-wife, my second ex-wife, I'm here to visit you. How have you 2 been? I brought you some good liquor. Melissa's soul froze for a few seconds. Her transparent face twisted in shock, and only after a long moment did she react, screeching furiously. William, you actually didn't come to see me. Do I even matter to you as your wife? I'm warning you, hurry and bring my parents, Gabriel, and our daughter back, or I will never forgive you. I couldn't be bothered with her madness. I crouched down and brushed the dust off the 2 graves. Sigh, you 2 left me all this money when you died. How am I supposed to spend it all? I let out a long sigh. Fate truly loved to toy with people. I had been married 3 times. Both my first and second wives died unexpectedly and left me enormous inheritances, allowing me to achieve financial freedom early on. Melissa was my 3rd wife. When she pursued me, she kept saying she wasn't after my money, only my character. Looking back now, she must have had her eyes on my assets from the beginning. Sigh, my dear ex-wives, did you take Melissa with you because you couldn't stand this gold digger either? Melissa swung her fists at me in rage, her blows passing through me. Are you insane, William? Who are you talking to? Hurry and get my parents and Lucy back, or I'll haunt you every single day. Slowly, I turned my head and fixed my gaze precisely on Melissa's floating soul. A cold smile tugged at my lips. Keep running your mouth, and I'll have someone perform a ritual to send you straight into the animal realm, so you'll never reincarnate again. Melissa's shrieking stopped instantly. Her transparent eyes widened to the point of nearly falling out. William, you can actually see me? What do you think? I chuckled and poured a drink in front of the 2 graves. If I couldn't see you, how would I know you secretly bought Gabriel a house or that you secretly had an illegitimate child, Luciana, with him? I paused deliberately, then continued with a lazy drawl. Maybe my 2 ex-wives came to warn me from the afterlife, afraid I might be deceived again, so they let me see your filthy true colors. Melissa didn't answer. Instead, she floated closer and lowered her voice. Since everything is exposed, I don't expect your forgiveness. But Lucy is innocent. You raised her for 5 years. Even if she isn't your biological daughter, surely you have feelings for her, right? Look at them, they're homeless. The child hasn't even had a proper meal. How can you ignore them? I stayed silent because honestly, I didn't even know what to say. I had never seen someone so shameless. She was already dead. Yet she still wanted me to continue being the perfect fool raising the child she had with her lover. Did I have a problem in my head? Or did she? But Melissa didn't give up. She clung to me like a vengeful ghost every single day. When I ate, she floated by the dining table wailing, "You used to make tomato beef for Lucy all the time. Now she can't even afford meat. How can you live with that?" When I slept, she slapped the bedroom door nonstop. "Lucy shivers at night from the cold. Doesn't that hurt your heart? If you don't take care of her, how will you ever face me after you die?" Her voice never stopped, and it started driving me half insane. After 3 days of this torment, I finally lost all patience and contacted a certain master I had known previously. Chapter 9. The day the master arrived with his ritual tools, Melissa finally knew what fear was. "William, I was wrong. I won't cling to you anymore. I'll leave right now, just don't let the master capture me. I only wanted to see Lucy a bit more. I didn't really mean to haunt you. I really was wrong, woo woo woo." The master didn't waste words. He set up the ritual formation and immediately began chanting. In the next moment, Melissa's soul let out a piercing scream. Her once transparent outline twisted and distorted before finally turning into a swirl of black smoke and being sucked into the ritual tool. The master said that people like her were destined to fall into the animal realm after death. With Melissa gone, I finally slept peacefully for the first time in days. But 2 days later, the doorbell rang again. When I opened the door, my in-laws were standing there with Luciana. My mother-in-law's hair had gone half white, her face haggard. The moment she saw me, her eyes reddened. "William, please let us move back in. Rent outside is insanely expensive, prices keep rising, and our tiny pension isn't enough. We can barely afford food anymore." Seeing I didn't respond, they pushed Luciana forward. "Look, Lucy has lost weight. She's suffered so much with us these past days." Luciana looked at me timidly. Instead of crying and screaming like before, she slowly moved closer and reached out, trying to tug the hem of my shirt. "Daddy, I was wrong. I'll listen to everything you say from now on. I'll bring you water and wash your feet for you. Please let us come back." "Okay." She even mimicked how I used to lean down toward her, slightly bending forward, assuming a flattering posture. Looking at her overly rehearsed behavior, I felt nothing. Not a ripple. 5 years of heartfelt care hadn't raised a grateful child. Only a creature whose instincts were to cling to power and abandon the weak. My father-in-law also lowered himself, rubbing his hands together. "We were wrong before. We shouldn't have protected Gabriel. But we've already kicked him out now. Just pretend the past didn't happen. You're Lucy's only father. We'll listen to you from now on." Then he shoved Luciana again. "Go on. Beg your daddy again." I thought for a long moment, yet said nothing. What was there to say to people like this? I took out my phone and directly called property management. "Hello, I'm the owner of Unit 202. There are unrelated individuals causing trouble at my door. Please come and remove them." My in-laws' faces instantly changed color. Even Luciana, who had pretended to be obedient just moments ago, dropped the act. "William, you horrible man. Go ahead and cling to your money. One day you'll die alone in this house and no one will even pick up your corpse." I turned to her, grabbed her collar, and slapped her hard across the face. Even if I raised a dog for 5 years, it would still wag its tail when it saw me. But you little beast with no conscience. Actually dare to bite the hand that fed you. Seeing me hit Luciana, my in-laws tried to cause a scene, but the security guards arrived just in time and dragged all 3 of them away. To completely avoid any future harassment, I listed the apartment on a rental website that very same day. Within 2 days, someone contacted me, a fitness trainer, a tall guy about 1.9 meters, his arm muscles thicker than my thigh. One look and you'd know he wasn't someone to mess with. We signed the contract on the spot. He moved in the next day and even patted his chest, assuring me, "Brother, don't worry. Even though I'm a guy, I'll treat this place like my own home." I nodded and dragged my already packed suitcase straight to the airport. Before, because I had to take care of Luciana, I had shrunk my life into the smallest possible radius. My whole schedule revolved around her, even going for a walk I could only sneak out while she slept. But now things were different. I could live however I wanted. When I reached the departure lounge, I finally felt myself breathe again. I deleted all of my in-laws and Luciana's contact information and switched my phone to silent. This trip lasted a full 2 months. On the day I returned, I made a detour to the apartment to fetch something. Unexpectedly, just downstairs, I ran into the fitness trainer tenant. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. "Brother, you're back." As we chatted, he mentioned what happened after I left. A while ago, an old couple brought a kid and made a fuss. They kept claiming this apartment was theirs and told me to get out. I tried reasoning with them, they wouldn't stop. Then they pushed me, so I pushed them back. They came a couple more times, and each time I beat them back out. He scratched his head and added, "Oh right, there was also a man with them. Looked like he was part of their group. I don't know what happened, but after they argued among themselves, he stormed off and never showed up again." I instantly knew it was my in-laws and Gabriel. The big guy continued angrily. "And that couple had filthy mouths. I couldn't stand it, so I taught them a lesson. Don't worry, I didn't go all out. Just needed them to know I'm not easy to bully." Later, I heard the follow-up gossip from the neighbors. After Gabriel got fired, he was already in a terrible mood. Living with the in-laws only made their conflicts worse. With no income and seeing the in-laws and Luciana as burdens, he simply packed up, stole the last of their savings, and disappeared without a trace. My in-laws had no choice but to curse Gabriel while surviving on their tiny pensions as they continued raising Luciana. But then came the funniest part. Not long ago, Luciana suddenly fell ill and needed hospitalization. During surgery prep, she needed a blood transfusion. My in-laws rushed to donate, only to find their blood types didn't match. They didn't even bother finishing her treatment. They dragged her to get a paternity test instead. And the result? The child had absolutely no biological relation to Melissa. People always talk about unexpectedly becoming a father. This was the first time I'd heard about someone unexpectedly becoming a mother. I dug into the details and learned the truth. Melissa and Gabriel's baby was stillborn at birth. And Gabriel, desperate to tie Melissa to him, simply stole a random infant from the hospital and claimed it was their child. When I heard this, all I felt was a mix of absurdity and satisfaction. My in-laws and Melissa had plotted together to make me the perfect fool. Yet in the end, karma hit them harder than anyone else. If anything, the only regret I have is that I shouldn't have let the master take Melissa away so soon. I should have let her witness this entire farce unfold before her eyes. Let her see what her precious lover had done. What a pity.